about dating too. Now I'm gonna tell you, Catherine, most of the questions I do get are about dating, and that's not by design. It's just men when you deal with men, the majority of their frustration. If you ask me, Michael, how do I fix my sales funnel? It's not controversial. I'm going to give you a step-by-step way to fix a sales funnel. Michael, how do I keep my sales team happy? That's not controversial. I can give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Michael, what do I do when my girlfriend keeps thinking that I'm cheating and I'm not cheating? That's a complicated question, Catherine, and that takes a while for me to answer.
The CEO of this company you call MOA Mentoring, right? Man
Yeah.
of Action. So for people who don't know you, my audience, let's explain, first of all, what does it mean, Man of Action? How did you come up with it?
Yeah. So the reason why why I came out with that name is it was probably, I want to say fall of 2019. I was on a group call with a bunch of a different coach. And I was joking. I was like, man, if I'm so sick of watching these self-help coaches telling people to like feel good about themselves and, burn a fucking candle and look in the mirror and say, affirmative aspirations or whatever. I was like, I want to take action. It's like, I think the best way for a man to feel good about himself is to get a new bench press max, to make some money, to provide for his family and to accomplish goals with other men. So instead, if I ever make a course, I'm going to call it Men of Action. And the other guy was on the call. He's like, bro, you need to copyright that. That's exactly what it is. So we came up with the name Men of Action. And basically I took, all the data, the mistakes, and the lessons that I learned over the last 25 years. So I was coaching for free, basically from 2008 to 2019. So for 11 years. But my journey probably started 2001. I used to work in nightlife, and it was just kind of like seeing the dynamic of like who the cool kids were, where the wealth was stored, what women were attracted to. I joined the military in '04. It took me about 2 years to get in. After 9/11, there was so many people trying to join the military. I got in February of '04. And I was in there for 7 years. And during that time, I learned about leadership. I learned about responsibility. I learned about the importance of communication. And then I end up moving to Las Vegas in 2011. And I've been in Las Vegas for the last 13 years. And in that place, that's where, again, I see like Las Vegas is the best status experiment that I've ever seen in the entire world.
I agree with you. But
Yeah,
let's go by parts, okay? I
yeah.
definitely want to talk about the Las Vegas scene. I saw some videos that you made there. I agree with a bunch of stuff you said, but I'm not sure about all this. So what is a man of action? Is a guy that, are you talking about building relationships? Or are you talking about the guy that gets all the chicks? Because the guys out there, I have a really good male audience.
Sure. Yeah.
So in your eyes, what is the man of action?
So it's interesting, Catherine. If you ever come on one of our calls, you know how Zoom, you can put 49 guys on the screen at the same time.
Yeah.
So on my calls, I usually have around 100 guys live and maybe about another 1,000 guys that'll watch after the group calls.
Okay.
And when we do that, what you'll see is Black people, Asian people, Hispanic people. There's absolutely a total distribution of people from Africa, people from Jamaica, all over the place. And the reason why is because the things that I discuss in my course are ubiquitous to Homo sapien men, a struggle for status and a struggle for higher sexual selection. So when you ask the question, what is a man of action? A man of action is basically, it's derived from your ancestors. Your ancestors 50,000 years ago during the Pleistocene, the ones who were the most productive were the ones who had access to the most resources. They're the ones who had access to the most women to breed with, to have children with. They're the ones who had the most offspring. They're the ones who had the most fruitful lives. And so throughout history, men who were productive and men who saw problems were the ones who were rewarded with the most. And so what I try to teach in my course is access to scarce resources, showing this on social media, access to scarce resources, competency, relevancy, and showing high status. And I teach you the skill sets of networking, communication, leadership, and dating. Dating is actually the last thing I teach you, but a lot of people, they think it's the first thing.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's what the course is.
When we see your videos, you talk a lot about and actually I think it's one of the first things on your website. When we open the website, you have like a phrase, oh, I will teach you how to have my lifestyle, something like that. Not the exact words, and how to be surrounded by beautiful women without spending any money. And you talk a lot about the beautiful women on your videos. So that's not all you're trying to teach them.
So, Catherine, the funny thing is, if you go back and watch the video, I show a lot of beautiful women. I only mention beautiful women one time during the video. It's some people tell me this all the time. So basically what we did as far as marketing is concerned, for those of you who are in marketing, you probably already know this. There's certain things you can't sell on meta ads. Like for instance, you can't sell a crypto course. You cannot sell a pickup dating course. So what we did was we took the word dating completely out of the course. And what we talk about is high status networking. But while I'm talking about high status networking, you see a lot of beautiful women and none of it's stock footage. All of the footage that you see comes from my real life. And that's the reason why it's been so pervasive. And we just crossed 1,600 members in the program is because they come, they see, they maybe come on one of the free calls. They see that everything I'm saying is true. We have 200 video testimonials on the website. And then at the end of it, they're like, okay, I understand these concepts. Catherine, here's one of the things that's very difficult for a lot of people to comprehend, for men especially, because men are very concerned with status, more so than women are. Men at the highest levels of dating and men in the highest levels of business, they're actually doing the same thing. There's a great book by Oren Klaff called Pitch Anything. And in the book, he talks about concepts like eliminate neediness. He talks about avoid beta behavior. This is a business book, but he's talking about dating concepts in a business book. Another great book like this is The $100 Million Offer by Alex Hormozi. If you read that book and just consider it, just like from a dating perspective, have an offer so good that people would feel stupid for telling you no. That's where these concepts come from. And I talked to Austin Dunham about this and several other people, Rollo Tomasi, you'll talk to Justin Waller, they'll say the same thing, is that these guys understand that at the highest level of like persuasion, the highest level of goal-oriented communication, and the highest level of like dating the most amazing women, it's the same type of communication. And where does that all come from? Again, it comes from our evolution.
Yeah, and
that's
look,
the thing I teach.
I agree with you. However, when people see your videos, like me, for example, I think it was your publicist, whoever reached out to us to have you on the show. I'm like, okay, let me check it out. And I looked, I'm like, yes, I definitely want to talk to this guy. He's obviously very intelligent. You speak extremely well, and you do the very powerful videos, which I completely agree. I think it's a fantastic idea. And then, like, for example, you show this nightclub and you say, oh, I worked on, and like I was saying to you before we got started, I had a house in Las Vegas for 15 years. I know the scene. I was married to a multi-millionaire, so I know the whole story. Yeah. But you talk about even your experience. You went to the club and you look at the dude and you're like, I want to know who is this guy that there's a bunch of women surrounding that guy. Now, I'm a woman. I know, that's my opinion, and you tell me if you disagree. The guy that is usually in the club, maybe he's rich, but I don't think it's like a high value guy. Maybe it's a man of action guy. I have many questions involved in this question. Because I've been in the clubs, I know the scene. And the same thing with the women. Like, of course, successful men want to be surrounded by beautiful girls. I agree. But 99% of those girls, they're also not high-value women. They want free champagne. They want free dinner. They want a sugar daddy. La, 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 la. They want to, create content for their social media. Very, very rarely you will see like high-value, really successful people in this scenario.
Okay, good point. So for Catherine, the first thing is with the whole nightclub stuff, the reason why I take men to nightclubs is not because they need to find their wife in a nightclub. The reason why I take them to nightclubs is because nightclubs are harder. Catherine, there's this issue where women generally don't have approach anxiety when it comes to approaching men, but men have a horrible, debilitating approach anxiety when it comes to talking to women. And so this is something that we try to work through what we call immersion. In fact, our course is called Vegas Immersion. Our real life course is called that. And you're absolutely right about what you're saying before, but there are a couple of other issues. Number one, while you may think that 99% of those women aren't high value, if you ask 99% of the high value women you met, have you ever been to a nightclub? Have you ever seen Tiesto? Have you ever gone out in Vegas and had a good time? They're all going to tell you yes.
No, I completely agree with you. Like I said, I did it and I still do it every now and again. I went to F1. I did CTS, all that good stuff. Yeah. To this day, I completely agree. But in general, like I said on one of your videos, there was a bunch of girls around O.J. Simpson, right? Yes. And holy shit. And then there's a bunch of girls around some other dude.
By the way, hold on. Catherine, the girl that was around O.J., you remember when I said, do you want to go meet the juice? She's a PhD. The girl was a PhD who actually went to go meet OJ.
That's the exception.
So we keep, but the thing is, we keep saying it's the exception, but at some point we come to the realization that human beings are attracted to certain things. With men, it has to do a little bit more with physical features. And with women, it has a man's ability to procure status and resources more so than it does with his physical features. But the whole point of it, like what you say, I understand the nightclub part. A lot of people give me this criticism. They're like, Michael, I don't want to meet a girl in a nightclub. I I don't blame you for not wanting to meet a girl in a nightclub. That's not my point. My point is, if I take you to an environment and you're a man, and Catherine, this is a uniquely male experience. If I take you to a nightclub and you're a man and I take you in there and it's really loud and there's good looking guys and there are rich guys around and there's a woman there and you feel this fear to talk to her, you getting over that fear to speak to her and talking loud enough to where she can hear you in a nightclub, when I take you back to like coffee or a fucking brunch or meeting a girl at a professional conference like CES, because you've worked through that approach anxiety in a very, very high paced, high stimulus environment, then when I put you in the easy environment, it's very simple. An example would be, let's say if you've seen guys fight in MMA, when they train to fight in MMA, they don't fight a guy against, they don't spar against the guy for 3 rounds. What they'll do is they'll spar against one guy in the first round, and then they'll bring another guy in, and he'll fight in the second round, and another guy in, they'll bring him in the third round. By the third round, he's exhausted.
I totally agree with you, Mike.
Yeah.
I talk about it on my podcast
Yeah.
all the time, that I think men are very intimidated by saying hello in public.
So we got to get them over that, Catherine. We got to get them over.
We've done a million experiments. I actually had this episode a while ago. You probably would laugh. A girlfriend of mine said, let's walk around carrying something really, really bizarre because it's going to break the ice. So we dressed up like looking super fabulous, and we were walking around like the hottest places all over Beverly Hills carrying a plunger. And then when we walked inside the bars carrying a plunger, all of a sudden, all the guys came, and it worked because it broke the ice and it made them talk.
Sure.
Because you're right. In general, the guys like staring at you the whole night, but they don't approach you. And a lot of women get frustrated with that.
Yes.
And it's not criticism. I'm just trying to understand, like when a guy's in your cars and you say, yeah, I'm going to take you to the nightclub, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You're talking a lot about women in general. Is this like, do you really think that's what most men like want? They just want to have a bunch of women.
So Catherine, here's the irony, right? I kind of go where my market takes me. So I talk a lot about self-help stuff. I actually talk about astrophysics. I talk about aliens. I have a degree. I have a minor. I studied astronomy in college. I talk often about politics, and I talk often about general self-help. I talk often about how to get through books very quickly. And those videos don't go very viral, Catherine. They just don't. But when I talk about the differences between men and women, it's incredibly controversial, and the algorithm eats it up, and people come into my funnel. And when they do, then they see what the rest of the course is about. Catherine, if I sat there and I was like, I'm going to teach you how to be a great leader, no one buys the course. They just don't, because most people who aren't good leaders aren't aware that they're bad leaders. But if I'm like, hey, listen, this is a dream life, and I show them pictures of it, if you'd like to live something similar to this, come join me. And when they join, I make them read books on leadership. I'm selling them what they want, but teaching them what they need. And every guy who's gone through my course at the end comes back and says, man, I didn't know what I didn't know. And thank you for kicking my ass and taking me down this path. Because if I didn't do that, then no one else would do it. It's just like if you see US Marines, they'll sit there in their dress blues afterwards, and all the girls are like fawning over them. These guys are like, okay, I'm going to join the Marine Corps because that's what the girls like. And they do it. But that's not why you join the Marine Corps. You join the Marine Corps because you have pride in your family and your country. That's why you do it, right? And in the end, the Marines teach you discipline. And so that's essentially what's going on here, is that there's a bunch of guys that have ADHD. They're just looking at boobies. They don't know what they're doing in their life. And I take those guys and I'm like, hey, man, you're still good men. I'm going to teach you some accountability. I'm going to teach you some networking. I'm going to teach you communication. I'm going to teach you leadership. And I will teach you about dating too. Now, I'm going to tell you, Catherine, most of the questions I do get are about dating. And that's not by design. It's just men, when you deal with men, the majority of their frustration, if you ask me, Michael, how do I fix my sales funnel? It's not controversial. I'm going to give you a step-by-step way to fix a sales funnel. Michael, how do I keep my sales team happy? That's not controversial. I can give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Michael, what do I do when my girlfriend keeps thinking that I'm cheating and I'm not cheating? That's a complicated question, Catherine, and that takes a while for me to answer. And when I answer that question, everyone's ears perk up and they want to hear the answer. So just because it's just the way of the world. When I talk about all these different subjects, the one that gets the most engagement is the one when I talk about intersexual dynamics or the innate sex differences between men and women.
I totally agree.